So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a digital war that's being fought in the darkest corners of the internet. It's a battle against one of the most awful crimes you can imagine, and it's being waged by a really unexpected group of soldiers, civilian hacktivists. Let's dive into this incredibly complex and controversial world. You've almost certainly heard this before. It's the iconic motto of the hacktivist collective Anonymous. For years, this phrase has been their declaration of war, basically signaling they're about to launch a cyber operation against a target. And for well over a decade, one of their most consistent targets has been online predators. And this really gets us to the main question here. When we think about fighting this kind of crime, we picture police, FBI, official law enforcement. But on this digital battlefield, those lines get really, really blurry. The soldiers are often just everyday people, armed with keyboards and, well, a pretty controversial sense of justice. All right, so let's get into who's actually at the heart of this modern-day vigilantism and what exactly they've built. This is it. #OpChildSafety. It's this long-running effort by Anonymous to fight the creation and sharing of child sexual abuse material, or CSAM. And look, it's not some formal organization. It's more like a banner, a rallying cry that like-minded people can gather under to coordinate their attacks. And for anyone who might not be familiar, Anonymous isn't a club you can just join. It's a totally decentralized, leaderless collective of activists and hackers from all over the world. Their whole thing is this idea of collective action for social or political causes, and #OpChildSafety has really become one of their most enduring missions. The key thing to get here is that this isn't some new phenomenon. It really started with early efforts like #OpPedoChat way back in 2012. Over the years, these ops evolved, they got more focused under that #OpChildSafety banner, and it all kind of culminated in 2024 with the discovery of a huge network they called Hydra. And as you can see, it is still a very active fight today. 35,000. I want you to just burn that number into your brain for a second. Keep it right there because it is absolutely central to this entire story. Remember that number, 35,000? That's how many agents the FBI has to police a country of 330 million people, all while facing this absolute tidal wave of data across a borderless internet. The hacktivists, well, they argue that this simple math proves law enforcement is just overwhelmed. They see themselves as filling a critical gap that the official channels just can't cover alone. That's their core justification. Okay, so what do they actually do? I mean, how does a decentralized group of hackers even begin to take on these massive hidden networks? Let's break down their playbook. Their mission has a bunch of different parts. It's not just about hacking. First, they want to expose individuals, which means identifying and sometimes doxing them. Second, they go after the networks themselves to disrupt them, taking down websites and forums. Third, they try to advocate for change, pushing for tougher laws. And finally, they work to just raise public awareness about the whole issue. So their process usually goes something like this. It all starts with intelligence gathering, using digital forensics to track their targets. Then comes a public pressure campaign on social media. That's followed by direct action, the actual hacking. And then, surprisingly, the last step is often reporting what they find to law enforcement, literally handing over data they got through illegal means. And believe me, their methods can get some staggering results. The discovery of that Hydra network, which they called a 1,000-headed monster, was a massive breakthrough. The info they uncovered and passed along is said to have kicked off more than 250 separate FBI investigations. I mean, that just shows you the kind of real-world impact these digital operations can have. But that impact isn't always so straightforward. With a huge power to do good comes an equally huge potential for harm. So we've got to look at the consequences, both the good and the bad. And this is really the core dilemma, isn't it? On one hand, you just can't argue with the successes. Big networks exposed, FBI probes launched, forums shut down. But on the other hand, the risks are just huge. These groups operate completely outside the law, there's a real danger of false accusations, the people involved can face serious jail time, and the psychological trauma from being exposed to this material can be absolutely extreme. Which brings us right to the fundamental conflict at the very heart of #OpChildSafety. It's really a modern take on a very, very old question about justice and the law. Now, I have to make this crystal clear. There are official, totally legal ways to fight this. Organizations like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or NCMEC, are the designated channels for reporting this stuff. This is the path that law enforcement and child safety experts will always recommend for anyone who wants to help.
And that leaves us with this final, really challenging question. When the systems we count on are stretched to their absolute limits, do these digital vigilantes become a necessary evil in a desperate fight? Or do they set a dangerous precedent where justice is decided by a faceless, unaccountable crowd? It's definitely something to think about.